Hello and welcome everybody to another of In Dialogue Foundation's sessions of the certificate course in Dialogue Studies. Today we have Dr. Fr Victor with us, and it's really I feel really I feel really good doing this because I've been one of his students. I have learned from him firsthand, and I'm sure each of you is going to enjoy today's session. So, Father Victor Edwin, apart from being a great humanitarian, a very nice person personally, he is a lecturer on Islam and Christian-Muslim relations at Vidyajyoti College of Theology, which is New Delhi based. He's also the director of the Vidyajyoti Institute of Islamic Studies. He serves as secretary of the Islamic Studies Association and edits the ISA quarterly named Salaam. He holds a master's degree in Islamic Studies from Aligarh Muslim University and has earned his Licentiate in Theology from Vidyajyoti College of Theology before gaining an MPhil in Christian-Muslim Relations at the University of Birmingham. He holds a PhD in Islamic Studies from Jamia Millia Islamia, which is again New Delhi based. So he's somebody we can truly learn from. He's lived a life of dialogue. So, Father, you have up to 2 hours to take the session, and which will be followed by the question answers from the students. And whoever wants to ask questions can just raise their hand, and you will be allowed to do that towards the end of the session. And everybody who does not have their camera switched on yet, please do so. Okay, so let's begin. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, dear Sister Alia. Thank you, Brother Behzad, for this wonderful opportunity to engage with young students, brothers and sisters from different parts of India and also from the other parts of the world. Dear friends, as Sister Alia introduced me to you, I am a Catholic priest, a Jesuit. I have a deep interest in interfaith relations, especially with Muslims with religion Islam. I've been engaging, interacting with our Muslim brothers and sisters for last 25 years or so. More than what I gained as degrees in the universities. Of course, they are very helpful. But what I have learned is engaging with people, listening to them, talking to Muslim brothers and sisters in different parts of the world. I really feel grateful to those brothers and sisters who have taught me some of the important lessons in dialogue. So with that gratitude, I'd like to begin my conversation with you. Friends, it's not that I don't think that I am a teacher and you are students. No, we are all co-learners. That's one of the principles with which I engage in conversation with our students anywhere, wherever I teach. So we are all co-pilgrims. We are co-learners. So we learn from one another, listen to one another. So anytime if you have a thought you want to share or a clarification you want to ask or an issue you want to raise, please feel free and just give the indication that you want to say something. And I welcome your I welcome the interactions. I welcome your comments and your questions. So we shall keep that in mind. Anytime you can interrupt and ask a question or seek a clarification. Dear friends, I'm just sharing what interreligious dialogue from a Christian perspective. And in the beginning, I want to share some of the thoughts, what I have learned, what I have gathered in engaging with Christian Muslim dialogue from both my reading as well as engaging with people. For me, interreligious dialogue, first of all, it is a conversation. The conversation between people who are holding significant differences. That's very important. If someone says yes to everything, that's not real dialogue. We have significant differences about our faith convictions, about our personal convictions. We have differences and we are engaging in conversation. So it's when we have significant differences, if we are not really open, we would speak something to say that's not agreeable, that's not acceptable. But if I have openness, I will be listening to your point of view. So that is something basic for interreligious dialogue. Because each one of us have our own faith conviction. For me, a Christian faith conviction. That means I have a specific understanding of God's revelation. God's revelation as God's self-communication. A Muslim brother or sister, he or she has a specific understanding of revelation. Revelation, prophecy, law, ethics. So every field, every area, each one has a specific understanding. This is only in religion. Then about culture, about politics, about every aspect of human life, we have different convictions. So a real dialogue is, first of all, it must recognize that I listen to someone who holds something significantly different from my view. Then there is a possibility of learning from one another. So this is, I think, I have realized listening is something very important, respecting. So listening, respecting, esteem for the faith of the other, all are components of this first step. Secondly, I have, from my reading, my interaction, second thing which I have learned is debate and polemics would not lead to any significant learning. Polemics and debate will generate heat. It would not generate light. It would not generate warm feelings. It would not generate new learning. I'd like to give the example of the Jesuit interaction in the court of Emperor Akbar, Jalaluddin Akbar, the great emperor. So Jesuits were invited by the emperor for religious conversation. The Jesuits raised issues in a very feverish way. They attacked the religion of Islam. They attacked the personality of the Prophet. So a lot of heat was generated, anger and displeasure. But the emperor was very considerate, understanding. He protected the Jesuits. But the Jesuits could not really create in their conversation understanding or something, a new learning. They were not open because they thought they have the truth, which is they have the sort of a supremacy of their faith conviction. And they realized, they said that they have to demonstrate the superiority of their religion by argumentation. They failed miserably. So that type of debates, that's a very debate. That's the polemics. They do not really generate any. That's an important learning. Even in our conversations, if I come with a specific agenda to impose upon the other, with forceful arguments, it won't be a good, it is not really real dialogue. It is not dialogue at all. It's only shouting shout. I will shout at the other will shout at me. So hardly anything is learned. There is no new relationship born. So polemics and debates have no space in interfaith dialogue. Yes, the debates, especially in the culture, field of culture, politics, debates are important. They are very healthy. But interreligious dialogue, because the interreligious debate is quickly people slip into demonstrating the superiority of their own faith. That is very unhelpful. It doesn't help any new significant learning. An interreligious dialogue is also a new way of thinking, a new way of reflecting. It's very important to see. Many years ago, before I began my journey of interfaith relations, I had very not a positive attitude towards people of other faiths. I confess that openly. I didn't have a positive attitude. But once I began with the guidance of Paul Jackson, an Australian scholar who studied Persian and translated the Makhtubat and Malfuzat, that is Sufi literature, letters, Sufi letters, and Sufi Majlis Mahfil, Sufi gathering, the material generated during the Sufi gathering. So he translated it and rendered it into English. So he was a great scholar. He initiated me into this dialogue. So one of the first lessons he said is, identify your prejudices against Islam. Identify them and own them and discard them. So it's important that dialogue, no new way of learning, a new way of reflecting, new way of seeing the reality. The other is not an enemy. The other is, in the light of the other, I recognize myself. There's a I think an African phrase, Ubuntu. I am because you are. The Jewish philosopher Martin Buber, I and thou, the deep I and thou relationship. This becomes a reality. We grow into this type of deeper understanding of the other only when we begin to see others in a new light. The other is my brother. The other is my sister, not an enemy. Not one with whom I have to fight, but rather engage in love, respect, and esteem. So that's very important towards a new way of seeing reality. That is very important for anyone who engage in interfaith relations. And also, as I just mentioned, the openness is very important. Openness is how do you explain openness? I would say openness is the ability to appreciate differences and plurality. I need not be afraid of a difference. Rather, I learn to appreciate the difference, respect the difference, respect plurality, appreciate. That's openness. Open-mindedness. That's very important for interfaith relations and interfaith conversation. And also, I have learned that anyone who is engaging in interfaith relations must shed exclusiveness and superiority. As I mentioned in the first point, the supremacy of religion. My truth. Yes, each religion has a truth claim. Christians have truth claims about God. Hindu brothers and sisters, they have the truth claim about God. Sikh brothers and sisters, they have their own truth claim. Muslims have their own truth claim. Truth claims are not to be clashed with. Truth claims are, in fact, very important for each person who is convinced of and who confesses that. At the same time, it also invites us to respect the truth claim of the other. My Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Buddhist brothers and sisters, they have the right to hold on to the truth claim, because we human persons, we search for truth. And once we recognize something which our heart feels at ease with, and we experience God's presence there, and we respond to that revelation in faith. So I have truth claim doesn't mean the others are not having. Others have the right, others have the freedom to have. So what I need to, by recognizing my truth claim, also I need to recognize the right of the other to have their own understanding of truth. Truth is, we cannot grasp the truth, we cannot comprehend the truth. We can only apprehend the truth. We can only touch upon the truth. It is God who is absolute. It is not that our faith and my conviction and my religion is absolute. The moment I feel my religion is absolute, I'm identifying religion with God. God is beyond all categories, transcendent, beyond all the categories that we can think of. God is transcendent. So we can only God alone is absolute. Our truth claim and our religion, everything is important for us, very necessary for each one according to their conviction, but it is not absolute. When I make my religion absolute and I put the others down, there won't be any dialogue. Dialogue will die. So it's very important to recognize that the triumphalistic, supremacist attitudes, if I have, I must shed them in order to prepare myself for interfaith dialogue. Secondly, this is a set of conversation, number of components connected with conversation. And I would like to say something on learning. Interfaith dialogue is about learning. In the beginning, I thought interfaith dialogue is something to demonstrate my faith. If I think that demonstrate my faith means my faith is the right one, you must understand my faith, you must accept my faith. So I have gone beyond that several miles. I really feel interreligious dialogue, at the heart of interreligious dialogue is relationship and learning. The primary purpose of dialogue is to learn from the faith convictions of what is something sacred, precious for a friend, a brother, sister, or a colleague of mine. For her or for him, what makes their heart excited about, what makes their heart broken. So the joys and sorrows of my brothers and sisters, I need to learn what is something very sacred for the person, and what is not, how my friend or colleague or brother, sister understands God-human relationship, human relationship between human and the created world. So what is something sacred? I must learn. As a Christian student of Christian-Muslim relations, that was my focus, listening to my Muslim brothers and sisters. What do they faith conviction? How do they express it? So by listening, I have grown in respect for them. Similarly, doesn't mean exclusively I'm talking about Islam, because my experience is on that field. The people who have long engagement with Hindu brothers and sisters, they too have a similar experience of learning what is important for them, how they celebrate their life, how they surrender their life. Yes. And interestingly, if I sincerely listen to the other, we will have mutual enrichment. Your faith will enrich my faith. That is my experience. That is the experience of many people who have engaged in interfaith relations. Dialogue enriches. You become a better Muslim, you become a better Hindu, you become a better Buddhist, better Sikh, better Christian. Because the faith of my, here I want to give, see, many of my examples are connected with Christian Muslim relations, because that's my uh, my personal life engagement. Two things I have experienced challenged my faith and made me a better Christian. This is mutual enrichment. I want to share two areas. Muslim brothers and sisters have something called taqwa. Taqwa is a deeper awareness of God. You can say fear of God. Fear of God in the sense it's not like policeman and thief, that fear. No. Fear of God is more of the presence of God. The holy other is present here. The holy other is, I'm present in the realm of the holy other. So what should be my attitude? So God consciousness, you can put in the other way. God consciousness. That God consciousness, inspire them, challenge them to be faithful to prayer, faithful to the zakat, faithful to fasting, so that may God be pleased with me. That is something beautiful. I'm challenged by that continuously. Many of my Muslim brothers and sisters, I have experienced that they live in that awareness, God consciousness. So their life, I have seen how they function, how they try to make their life meaningful, try to make efforts to be faithful to what God demands of them. So that's a challenge for me. I ask myself as a Christian, Catholic, Jesuit, priest, how do I respond to my vocation as a Christian? How do know the challenge of God consciousness? So that's something, that's an area of mutual learning. Secondly, the remembrance of God, zikr. That is something which is challenging for me. Many Muslim brothers and sisters, especially in the Sufi tradition, they practice this remembrance of God. So how much do I remember? I confess that God reveals God's self in the salvation history of human persons and draws all people to close to himself. I believe that. So how much I do remember that God who is merciful, that God who is compassionate, that God who has given God's self to humanity. So how much I am aware of that, I am remembering that. So that's a challenge for me. See, this is how when we go deeper in engaging with people of other faiths, an element or the other from the other tradition will challenge you. It is to make you a better Christian, a better Muslim, a better Hindu. There is no hidden agenda to manipulate others to bring to my religion. No, the transparent agenda is transparent. Agenda is for mutual learning. That's very important. And then also listening to others is something very important. Without listening, I will not be able to recognize these deeper elements. Secondly, interreligious dialogue is also learning. I said prejudices have to be shed. Teaching Islam, Christian, Muslim relations primarily for Christian students of theology in different parts of India and also other parts of the world. I have recognized three types of prejudices. The type of questions Christian brothers and sisters ask about Islam. Identify three, which I had a number of these questions. One of the study of David Thomas and Douglas Sprott their essay, long essay on dialogue, I found how they identify different prejudices. That was very helpful for me to recognize in my own interaction with Christian brothers and sisters. In the questions, certain questions are sort of no innocent prejudice, I would say. Means no, they don't have a fact, they don't have data. So they have all sorts of prejudices about Muslims. Most of the prejudices come from media or from hearsay. People say like that, oh, I read in the paper or I saw in the news channels. So most drawn from media or hearsay. And they are sort of no simple ignorance or innocent ignorance. You offer them proper data, offer them proper explanations, and help them to meet Muslims, to clarify things, and they are willing to open, and easily they are gentle, they are open, and then accept that their prejudices. Yes, I was wrong, I thought like this. I'm happy that I have known, I'm growing, I'm getting the correct data. Easy, they change. There are some other blind ignorance, I would say. Blind ignorance is some sort of no very strong sort of no hatred, anger. They are not willing to easily, even if you give data, even if you allow, no, provide certain experiences, they still wrestle with. So with them, we need to constantly engage with, without losing patience, without getting upset. We need, so patience is an important virtue for interfaith relations. You need to engage with them, continue to give data, discuss, talk. So eventually, they also open up and accept the new reality, try to see things in a new way, in a more holistic manner, more inclusive manner. And the third is there are ignorances I have found. They are culpable. They are ideologically founded. They would don't change. They will be so sort of closed. Whatever data you give, whatever experiences you provide, they remain in their own realm. They would not change. They will ask the same question after 5 years. This is my own experience. A student of mine, a Jesuit, who studied here with Vidyajyoti, he asked the question, was a particular question 7-8 years ago when he was here. I found him sort of good man, but his ignorance is so heavy, so ideologically founded. Now he's 7 years later, recently in a webinar, he was asking the same question with the same tone. I felt deeply sad. 7 years doesn't change. He remains in his own small world, seeing that his faith is something superior, the others secondary. So there are people like that. Well, we need to just to engage with them. There is no other way. I have not found a way to engage with them. The first two levels we can. So learning, go away beyond these prejudices and to learn something new. And also I realized this interfaith dialogue. Also, it's when we engage with people, we say we begin to see our, we begin to grow in our own faith, become a better human person and better person in our own religion. Often people ask, how is it possible? How does it happen? I have realized when we begin to view closely other religion by listening to them, talking to them, I begin to review my own convictions in the light of the new learnings. So in order to understand myself better and understand the other better, So when we understand ourselves better, when we understand the others better, certainly we grow deep in our own faith convictions. We become a better whoever we are. Friends, I just want to stop here for a moment. Would you like to ask any question? If you want, do you have any comment to make? So that dialogue is also conversation. We can make it as a good conversation. Yes.
Anybody who would like to ask a
Feel free to
question,
make a
please raise
comment.
your hand.
Yeah. Okay, so we will continue. Feel free anytime to stop. If you have a different opinion, please share. Important. It's not that my opinion has to be reflected. No, please feel free to make your own opinion, your personal opinion, which may, if it is different, it's the source for our learning, my own learning. And dialogue also, I feel, where we witness to our own faith. Oftentimes, people think dialogue means compromising one's faith. That is not dialogue. If I compromise my faith in Christian faith, and then there won't be any real dialogue. The other will respect me if I'm truly rooted in my faith. I respect the other as a dialogue partner for his or her deeper conviction in his own faith, in her own faith. If he or she is not rooted in faith, it's not possible to have dialogue. If I'm not rooted in my faith, what can I offer? Dialogue, both the parties offer, what we bring to our table together. If I'm not a committed person in my faith, what can I bring to the table for conversation? Some superficial things which will not sustain any long-standing dialogue. So superficiality can be very fun, a lot of fun, joy, and but it doesn't substantially contribute to a dialogue and conversation. So commitment to one's faith is important. The courage and conviction to live our faith in the public space, in relationship with others, is the beautiful form of dialogue. The coexistence. We are not simply tolerating, oh, the world is pluralistic world, so there are people of other faiths living, so I need to tolerate them. That's not dialogue. Tolerance is a very low form of, we must start with that, but we cannot afford to stay in tolerance. Tolerance is a very primary step, much more than beyond tolerance, accepting, loving, esteeming, recognizing, affirming, appreciating, and learning from you would be the important level of dialogue. So I need to live with courage. I should not hide my faith. I, as a Catholic Jesuit priest, my identity, I'm happy to share that with you. You, as a Muslim student, as a Hindu student, a student who has the faith conviction of Islam, faith conviction of Sikhism. So I appreciate and learn. So we need to be courageous in giving witness to one another's faith. And also, finally, it's very important, but we must be carefully listen what's my understanding. It's also for conversion. When we hear the word conversion, we quickly think conversion from one religion to the other. I am not talking about that conversion. But still conversion, yes. What is that conversion is all about? Conversion to become a better person. Conversion to God. When I convert myself to God, I convert myself to be at the service of humanity. So conversion is needed. Dialogue is focusing on conversion, not manipulating and making a Hindu a Christian, a Hindu a Muslim, or a Muslim a Christian a Sikh, or a Buddhist. Dialogue is not for changing the religion of the other. Dialogue is, the focus is ultimately, I am converted to God. Because I stray away from God, I return to God. I stray away from God, I turn myself towards God. So become a better human person, better religious person. And at the same time, affirming the other as other. So these are some of the elements or components of interreligious dialogue that I have learned. In this component, any question, any response, any comment? Good. Now we can ask the question. First question we asked, what is interreligious dialogue? What are its components? We talked about certain things. Now we ask the question, why dialogue? Why must we enter into dialogue? I am comfortable as a Christian. I live my life. And Muslim brother, Muslim sister, Hindu sister, brother, Buddhist, why should we engage in dialogue? I recognize, I learned, I'm convinced that religion is not something which is external to us. Religion is something like religious freedom, freedom of conscience. They are very much integral to our, as a human person. See, we can change our shirt or our the dress. It's not like religion is like an outfit. Religion is something which is closer to the heart, imprinted on our soul and our inner being. So freedom of religion, freedom of conscience, they are very much imprinted in the soul. So religion is something which is very close to our heart. So in our life, we cannot only celebrate religion in the private space, like religion of my religion is within the house. No, we are social beings. We also celebrate our faith convictions without giving trouble for the public order. We celebrate in a public way. That's why we have temples, churches, and mosques. It's of a public faith affirmation. Only thing, we must not give in to any difficulty, for the public order should not be disturbed. But public expression of faith is integral. So that's why dialogue is important. We need to engage with the other, because the differences deep down are real. That's why sometimes when people say that all paths lead to one destination, that's good for to teach the children. That's important. All roads lead to one destination. Yes, that's beautiful. Very important. We must teach the children. But each road is distinct, and each road is specific, and each person has a call to walk in that road. You as a Hindu brother, sister, you are called to walk in that particular path. That path has some specific to you, which you draw inspiration from. You what makes your life joyful, makes your life fulfilling, makes your life meaningful. Similarly, the Christian one walks on a path. For them, path is something. The way is important. Similarly for Muslim. So the ways are real different. They lead, also when we say all the roads lead to destination, as I said, the ways are different, specific, distinct, and you have a call to walk in the particular path. Similarly, the destination also, we cannot simply say all roads to lead to one destination. Take the case of destination. So a destination can be called, Buddhists will call nirvana. And the Muslim brother and sister, Muslims would call as a paradise. Christians will call as sharing of divine life. And Sikhs will have another way. So destination also, there are differences. Differences, the way we affirm, the way we recognize, there are differences. So all roads reach to same destination is a beautiful teaching, a primary teaching. We cannot repeat it without giving sufficient reflections to it. We cannot simply repeat it. It won't be so meaningful in the higher levels. For children, we need to teach. That's the first step. But as we deepen our understanding of the ways are different. That's why mutual learning is possible. You share what is something beautiful about your path. And that may may stimulate me, may spiritually invigorate me to see something beautiful in my path, and learn from your path. How do you walk and how do you approach? So mutual sharing is possible. If all the paths are same, we cannot hardly. This path is as similar. Okay, today I will walk in this path. Tomorrow I will come to your path. You come to this path. That doesn't work in religious dialogue. So paths are significantly different from one another, distinct, and has its own specific beauty, and you have the specific call to walk in the path. So it's very important to recognize that the differences are real, and the differences cannot be ignored. Now, every religion also claim to present a truth, which we talked about. So here we need to listen how the other is presenting his or her faith conviction. So this is very important. So dialogue, we must recognize, we need to know that there are differences. From the differences, we must learn. So that is very important. That's why dialogue is important. It's also to open ourselves to affirm other religious, other religions, and the elements of truth present there. We will develop in dialogue to recognize the rays of truth, the rays of light in the other religious traditions. So there we recognize that truth is an ineffable mystery. The truth is eternal and absolute. And this makes our dialogue an imperative. If a truth is ineffable, is an ineffable mystery that is beyond us, that is absolute and eternal, so we will deeply recognize all of us are co-pilgrims. We are all moving towards that truth. In the Christian tradition, the truth is not a concept, not certain affirmations of a divine life. It is a person. The person, truth is a person. The truth embraces us. We cannot grasp the truth, but the truth embraces us. So we, different pilgrims of different faith, walk towards the truth, having our own convictions and sharing our convictions, enriching our life. So that's important. That's why dialogue is very crucial in the particular context in which we live. And also, when we look at the differences, truly a religious person would make these differences sources for union of heart and mind. It's very important, friends. Differences are there. If I am a man of God, if each one of us are men of God or women of God, we will use these differences to bring people together, to create something inclusive, to bring together towards union of heart and mind. Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Sikh. So all are brothers and sisters. That inclusiveness, not becoming one religion, not becoming one. No, I'm not saying that we put everything together and grind it. No, 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 no. Like a mosaic, like a bouquet of flowers. Each individual flower, men of God and women of God, they bring it together, make it a beautiful bouquet, beautiful mosaic. It's not a melting pot, not syncretism, taking a religion, some of the beautiful things in each religion and put them together and make a sort of a concoction. No, not a mixture, not a melting pot. It's a bouquet. We can, if men of God, women of God can bring and make the differences into a beautiful bouquet, but at the same time, people who are people of vested interests, people who are selfish, those who have selfish political motives, will use these differences to put one against the other. You see? So differences can become beautifully inclusive. Differences also be a reason for fights and reason for conflict. Differences can unite us, and differences can put us in conflict with one another, depending upon who is handling the differences. So that's why dialogue is important. We need to build networks of people who bring differences into a beautiful bouquet of flowers. I think that's very important. That's why dialogue is important. So, in this panel, I will also share, say, dividing is easy. And even not, sometimes, my own experience, I have seen how, as a young boy and without much understanding, saying something negative about other religions. That is, maybe as a young boy, I have done that. Sometimes a fun, saying something about other religions, not respectfully. But that needs to change. I'm really grateful to God. That changed very quickly in my life towards a new way of seeing. So, dividing is easy, saying, belittling the faith of the other and condemn the beliefs of the others and their practices, making fun of others' practices. So these are the ways in which we can, people, vested interest people, they bring a division and conflict. To unite, we need more conscientious work. Dividing is very easy. Saying after building a relationship for 20 years, one word disrespectful towards the faith of the other can break the heart of the person. It is very easy to destroy. To build a bridge, it takes time. To destroy it, one bomb in a split second, everything is destroyed. You see, dialogue is also like that. It takes a lot of conscientious effort. Work is needed to bring people together and reflect together and learn from one another. It's a number of people have done something beautiful on this, bringing people together. People from different religious traditions, and also people who do not belong to any faith tradition, also brought people together. Then the task of dialogue, why dialogue we spoke. The task of dialogue is to discern the common grounds. See, religions are different, we said, but there are common grounds. Common grounds in terms of faith conviction. For example, Christians and Muslims believe and worship one God. Of course, God is one. All Christian, Muslim, whoever believes, worships God is worshipping one God. There are not two gods. They are not God for Sikhism. They are not God for Hinduism, not for Christian. No, God is one, and we worship one God. albeit in different ways. Albeit is, though we worship one God, we worship that one God in different ways. Human way of worshipping is different. Muslim brothers and sisters offer namaz. Hindu brothers and sisters offer puja. Christian brothers and sisters offer the Eucharist. The worship forms are different, deeply connected with our faith conviction. But the worship is to one God. So this is a common ground. Worshipping one God is the common ground. Friends, here I always emphasize, as soon as I say we worship in one God, the consequences are very, very important. If all of us worship one God, what we are to one another? Can we be in conflict? Can we fight? Can we speak ill of one another? If we worship one God, we are all brothers and sisters. We must hold the other as a brother and sister. Otherwise, worshipping one God is meaningless, because this one God is the creator of all of us. Christians call that God as Father. Muslims call that the creator God as Allah. And the Hindu brothers and sisters, they use another name. But idea is God is our creator. If God creates all of us, and we are not to be at the throat of one another, we must hold our hands together and walk as co-pilgrims. We are brothers and sisters. That is very important. That is what we need to instill in the hearts and minds of people who are entering into this, as students, you and your own friends. That's very important. One God we worship. We are all brothers and sisters. Secondly, it is also bridging the gaps, the misunderstandings I talked about, not to remove that. And also it is collaborative action, partnerships, and working together for common good. So these are some of the important elements connected with why dialogue. This is also something which I learned over the years. I have put them together. Any question, friends, before we move to the other?
Yeah, Father.
Yes, George.
From a Christian perspective, why it is important to have interreligious dialogue? If you can say a few elements on that.
Okay. Thank you, George. See, for dialogue, the first one is sociological reasons. I'm not convinced of that. I will say that, why I'm not convinced of it, and what is the other important foundations for dialogue. So what the question you are asking, why a Christian must enter into dialogue? What is the religious foundation for dialogue? Am I right? Is that your question?
Yes, Father. Yes, you are right. Yes.
Right. Yeah. The first is sociological reasons, because we live in a pluralistic world. People of all faiths are living together. So we must engage with others. See, we work together, we play in the same teams, we live in the same area. We don't know each other. We say hello to each other, but we don't know each other. Sociological reasons may be important to engage with, but sociological reasons are not enough. They are not adequate for dialogue. For me, as a Christian, I would put the theological reasons. The first theological reason is our faith in triune God. We believe God as Father, Son, and the Spirit. And we know the Bible says we are created in the image and likeness of God. So Christian conviction is God is relationship. The heart of God is relationship. And we are created in that image and likeness. So we are created for relationships. Our true identity is found in relationship. That's the theological reason. So I cannot isolate myself, or I cannot be selfish in my own world. I am created for relationship. God loves all human persons. So God loves all humanity. So I am created in God's that image that seeks relationship. So I must seek relationship with the other, knowing the other, loving the other, esteeming the other, respecting the other. That's the first theological foundation for dialogue. The second theological foundation, I'm just quickly telling precisely for you. Second is, we believe that, the Word of God, the second person of Trinity who became a human person, Jesus, God, man, who is connected with all humanity. Mother Teresa said, I see Jesus Christ in everyone. So we seek relationship with everyone because Jesus is identifying with all human persons. Thirdly, that's a Christological foundation. Thirdly, we believe that the Holy Spirit is present everywhere, in all religions, in all cultures, in all people. The Spirit of God is alive and active in every person. So God wills, the Spirit blows where it wills. And we see the fruits of the Spirit, peace and hard work, honesty, everywhere. So we must seek relationship. So this is the theological reasons, I would say. I'm just telling them briefly. So sociological reasons important, but they are not adequate. For a Christian has to enter into dialogue with other religions because of the theological reason. They are the theological foundation for Christian dialogue with other religions. Yeah.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Arokya, George. Yes, Pragyaji.
Yeah, so I feel, Father, that there is somewhat always easier to have a dialogue between two religions because, they believe in some sort of God at the end of the day. But I just want to know your views on, is there something that you also learn from atheists and agnostics that when you kind of engage in dialogue with them? Do religions in general learn from atheists and agnostics, and do you find it like more difficult, or is it the same as engaging between religion and religion?
Thank you, Pragyaji. That's a very important question. Thank you for that. See, whatever faith conviction or non-faith conviction, we must respect all of them. That's my conviction. Because practically I have seen a number of men and women who do not have a particular faith conviction, but deeply committed to justice, deeply committed to the human rights and human dignity. And in them, I see the fruits of, as I said, the fruits of the Spirit, the thirst for justice, a thirst for defending the rights of my brother and sister who are disadvantaged, standing for faith and standing for justice, standing for the human rights and dignity, and willing to suffer for it. People who do not have any faith conviction, they have deep humanism conviction. So certainly I would learn from them. Yes, all of us need to learn from them. So faith or no faith, what is important is what their life show. We said, that's why we say the spirit of the fruit is the fruits of the Spirit of God is present everywhere. Person may have faith or faith, particular faith can see many of them do, or they may not worshipping, going to, but they have certain conviction in life, humanistic conviction. So it's very important to have conversation with them, and they have a lot to teach us, people who belong to a faith tradition. That's my personal experience and conviction. Thank you. Any other comment, questions?
Hello, Father. Yeah, I have a question and also kind of statement. Our friends Praga asked about the atheists, like how we should actually, or can we learn from them, if I understood correctly. And I was also thinking about that question, and I'm not sure, but I'm just expressing my feelings, and if I'm wrong, you can also correct me. With the atheist, actually, we are learning a bit more than we are learning from the others, like the Christians and the Jewish people, because, like you said, we are believing in one God, and first of all, we are believing in God, and that's why I think that makes us and put us in a bubble that we are actually finding a lot of common grounds between us. But with the atheist, we can actually learn more to find the real God, because when we are actually with our Muslims or the Christian brothers and sisters, we cannot see the gaps, but with them, they are actually showing us their gaps, like why they actually became an atheist, why they actually disbelieve, why they ignore God. And sometimes in our daily lives, we don't even actually realize our gaps. We are believing, let's say, from the 5 years old or 7 years old, from the beginning of our lives, but they are questioning all their lives. And yesterday there was a professor, Zaman, from United States, I guess, and he said the best, sometimes the atheists are better than the believers, because they're questioning, they are seeing the differences, they are seeing the missing parts, and they are trying to make the puzzle together. But there are also some believers, they don't even think what they are believing in, why they are believing. And that's why sometimes even we learn more from atheists, if I'm not wrong. You can also correct me.
Thank you. Thank you. How do you pronounce your name?
Furkan, yes.
Furkan, yes. Thank you for your intervention. Yes, they question themselves, no question. What is taken for granted is being questioned by the very important element of sort of a life that is committed to reasonable ways of living. Very important to question. I would add one point. Believers also question. It's many believers in certain time of their life, they raised questions. They raised, really searched and struggled. As a student, before going to study philosophy, I myself had a personal agony of searching for what my meaning, what's life, meaning of my life, who is calling me, and what am I to do with my life? These questions come for everybody, many people. This is my own personal experience, very small way. See some of the big mystics, they have also experienced that in what they call the absence of God, or the dark night of the soul. They search for, is really God's present, especially for Mother Teresa. She encountered so much of human suffering. He served humanity, said that she's seeing Jesus in each person she serves. And so much wound, so much woundedness she has experienced. But she also has, many years she struggled, the dark night of the soul. In a sense, is God is there? How can, the whole question of theodicy, the question of problem of evil, many suffer. Certainly, many have gone through that struggle. So this struggle is not only the people who do not belong to any faith tradition, but also who belong to faith tradition also struggle with these existential questions, especially with theodicy, that is problem of evil. If God is all powerful, all providing, why there is so much pain, why there is so much violence, the question of human freedom. So all those things many struggle with. But your point is very important. I appreciate that. Yes, we have wonderful many things to learn from our brothers and sisters who consider themselves as atheists. We respect their conviction. We respect their human dignity. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Furkan. Any other question, friends?
Yeah, I request anybody who has any question now, please introduce yourself so that Father Victor can also get to know you and then ask your question, please.
Yeah. There's also another practical ways, no, dialogue is very important because today we live in a globalized world. You see the transnational migration, refugees, brothers and sisters who flee their country because of dangerous situation prevailing in their countries. And no, there's no Muslim world, a Hindu world, or a Sikh world, or Christian world. Now people live all parts of the world. Everywhere there are, the world has become a pluralistic world, beautifully pluralistic world. There's no one, India is the Hindu, only Hindus live in India. Hindus live all over the world, from Canada to New Zealand. Similarly, Sikh brothers and sisters live, Muslims live. So today is a globalized world. We need a greater interaction between Christians and Muslims. When the cultures are coming closer to each other, we must understand the cultures. We must respect, learn to the multiculturalism, multicultural interaction, very important. And also, and in such situations, we really need to prepare people, who could engage in the new phenomena. Especially, we just consider the refugees pouring into Europe. A Jesuit friend who comes from Lebanon, he has something beautiful insight to offer. He said the hospitality is one of the greatest value of the West Asian world, North Africa and West Asian world. Hospitality is very important element of people of West Asia. And if you are a traveler, you're a genuine traveler, and if no one needs hospitality, Muslims they take care. In Egypt or North Africa, Lebanon, people are hospitable. Hospitality is something which is very much part of there. So when they come to Europe, if their cultures are respected, when Europe makes herself hospitable to people who come as refugees, the integration would be much greater, and it will be a very, very smoothly the people will be integrated. But if they feel that they are sort of rejected, isolated, then the integration becomes a very difficult question. Something very insightful. His own experience living in West Asia, in Lebanon, in Egypt, he made that. He himself is from Lebanon, so he has an important insight to say. How do you recognize this? So we need people who are trained in multicultural interaction, so they know the different cultural aspects, cultural elements. See, so for a certain word or a gesture could be very offensive in particular culture. For example, a gesture of mine in one of your culture is very abusive. If I don't know, I make that gesture, you are offended. But I think what I did, I have not nothing. I did not say a word. If you're offended, what can I do? You see, problems are there. So I need to be helped to understand and what elevates the heart of my brother and what breaks the heart of my brother. So we need to train people, especially wherever there are real need. We need to help our communities, our religious groups, church, as to prepare many people who can help others to be culturally sensitive to the other. If one is culturally sensitive to the other, I feel integration will be much easier. So this way, what I draw from his comment, I sort of reasoned out this particular way. It's very important so that the prejudices and misinformation are removed. The other is not the strange anymore. Other is becoming part of the larger community. The fear and uncertainty disappears. Otherwise, constantly there will be fear, there will be uncertainty, there will be cultural prejudices. It will be like festering wounds. But if you have a proper way of helping people to understand the cultural elements, what is something important, how people think, how people see. Similarly, for those who are arriving new to new place, also they need to understand. For example, those who are arriving in Europe, they are quite the modern science, which it is very for them it's exciting, but at the same time they are afraid that this modern life may alienate them from God, because their way of praying, all those things are alienated. They feel they are frightened. So that's a cultural prejudice against the place where they have gone. So they also need to be help them to understand the postmodern values, the respect for human dignity, the individual freedom of religion, all those values, they also to learn. So it's a mutual learning. That's why I'm emphasizing mutual learning. So more and more intercultural work is very important. Helping the hosting communities to understand the cultural elements and helping them to interact in order to remove the uncertainty, prejudices, fears, and misinformation about the refugees, and also help them, those who arrive in the new lands, to understand the European culture, European science. It's not something alienating from God. They need not very fear, but the values of freedom, human rights, human dignity. So those they need to learn. So it's a mutual learning. That's why I'm emphasizing. If the fear and uncertainty, threat and hostility, if it remains, it will lead to violent reactions from both sides. So that's where dialogue work is more and more important. So the violent reactions, then politics will enter, politicization of religions, interreligious violences, conflicts, riots, killings, wars, all become, it confuses, makes the mess of our human situation. That's where the dialogue, understanding, help people to understand one another, important. And then the dialogue is important also because there is a lot of suffering in the world. Suffering in the world is real. Too much suffering in the world, poverty, impoverishment. Poverty, not simple poverty, it's impoverishment, because there are huge corporate companies makes millions and millions of people poor. It's impoverishing the other, looting the wealth of the poor, looting whatever they have. So impoverishment is there, malnutrition, children dying. There is yesterday I saw, I think, in Yemen, several, the thousands and thousands of children will be dying because of malnutrition in our own country. In other places also malnutrition, very serious issue. And the refugees and war and conflict, I said, gender-related issues and ecological, all sorts of oppressions. The suffering has a greater intent. The intensity, it keeps increasing. So here, religions together can offer solace, can offer, it's not just helping to escape from reality. Religions can strengthen them to seek justice, to seek the human rights, to emphatically stand for human rights and human dignity. So the religions has the power. the scriptures can inspire us to work for that type of the common action, dialogue of action. It's a dialogue of action. Through the many people of different religions, they practice in their life. They practice justice and honesty and faith and courage to raise voice for human rights. So they are the people who really offer solace. So it's important this group of people have to work together as Christians and Muslims in small ways. If you see some of the prisons, I have heard, I don't have much idea, I have heard that some certain prisons, the jails will have a different imam or a priest helping people to helping them to reform their life, live a life worthy of God and worthy of 21st century human dignity. So the sufferings in the world, for the integral human development, religions can work together. So dialogue is very important. So working together is an imperative. It's no more than simply possible. It's an imperative. It's not an option. It is some obligation. We must work together, people of different faiths, for that some understanding of the different elements of dialogue is important. Finally, before we go, who should engage in dialogue? Different forms of dialogue as the Christians believe. I've shared before that. Any question, friends? Okay.
Whoever has a question, please raise your hand. That's Sabah. Sabah, please introduce yourself and then ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, Father.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sabah.
Father, I just wanted to know that the way you're talking about the methods that, how to teach. So I want to know whether you have some sort of system of how to, train people for how to have a proper dialogue, interreligious dialogue, and how is it important? Do you have some sort of system?
Thank you, Sabah. It's an important question about methodology. What I have learned is the first and foremost important method is what Paul Jackson did. I do follow with in Delhi. Paul Jackson had a methodology of introducing Christian students of Christian students to Christian Muslim dialogue. The first thing which he would do is he used to give us some instruction about the Muslim etiquettes. And then he will also, the second step, he will send the students into small groups to different towns in Bihar. And he would arrange, a place to stay. The students will go and stay in a madrasa or in a khanqa or in a mosque. And then they have to go and meet a number of Muslims from different walks of life. A social activist, teacher. He will give 3 or 4 contacts, his friends. But students must meet more than that 4 people. They have to meet the 4 and then keep meeting number of them. Some 5 or 6 days, they stay in a madrasa, in a khanqa, another place, and they meet, different walks of life. Somebody, an artisan or a worker or a farmer, a teacher, a lawyer, or a young a person, little elderly person, men, women, all sorts of people, a variety of people they have to meet. He will give 4 contacts. After the 4 meeting them, they have to meet number of them. And every day they have to, we have to write down our experiences. What did we feel? And what did the questions came up? And his only one instruction is seek clarification. If you have some doubt, ask question and don't enter into an argument. Secondly, ask questions in a sensitive way. Don't ask questions in such a way the person gets offended. Ask serious questions, important questions, sensitive way. See, why you oppress Muslim women? People will get offended. What are you talking about? But you can ask the same question, so asking in a sensitive way, something like, there is an impression in the society that Muslim women are not adequately educated. Is there any truth in it? What do you say? So this would make a person to speak. And you ask the same question to other people also. So you have difference of opinions. So this is the methodology. First, meet people, listen to them. And then your questions, uncertain theological question, you write down, and every day you make notes. And then after that 5 days, they come back. And then for 2-3 days, they share their experience. What I thought of Muslims, and what this particular Muslim or in a conversation, how did I feel, and what's something I learned new. So there, see, once the experience transforms people, that is the methodology. That's the training. See, otherwise, no, you can read hundreds of books, but no, it will be good. I'm very important for me. I read a lot, and I also encourage the students to read. But this is for the mind. And what about your heart? Both, I think dialogue has to appeal to both heart and mind. So mind, I wrestle with the text in the morning time. In the afternoon, I go and meet Muslims, simple Muslims, ordinary Muslims, listening to them. That's the methodology that Paul Jackson, see, he was a great scholar. He spent time till afternoon in the Khuda Bakhsh library. In the afternoon, he went and met simple, ordinary Muslims. He used to visit. He will take cycle and go and meet some friends in the Muhalla. When he was very old, he was barely able to cycle. He used to cycle 5 kilometers to go on haircut. He hardly had hair, but he used to go to one particular barber to have haircut, to have conversation. So for me, relationship is at the heart of dialogue. In order to experience that, we need to meet people. So exposure is the first important element. Then reading. So both needs to constantly work out. So that's the methodology for training. Anyway, see, there are also some in West Asia. I heard they bring young people, boys and boys or girls. Here, Jewish boy, a Muslim boy, a Christian boy, and they are given a common task, a tough task, a difficult task. One of the tasks I heard, a friend of mine shared with me, they are given one camel to manage the whole day. So how the camel will, they have to, so all of them have to put their heart and mind to work together. In the evening, they will share. Like this hard, difficult exercises are given so that they work together, they interact with one another. So exposure and experience is at the heart of training. Relationship is at the heart of dialogue. Thank you so much.
That's actually very helpful on a practical level, Father. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, anyway, Sabah, yes, brother Humayun.
Thank you, sir, first of all, for the lecture. My name is Muhammad Humayun, and I am from Afghanistan. I live in Kabul. Sir, you mentioned before that in every religion, the paths are different. So once the paths become different, so what would be the perspective of interfaith dialogue? What we must look to gain, because their paths are different, and somebody else who's from another religion, his path is different. So what exactly he must look to gain?
Thank you. Thank you, Humayun. Thank you for the question. I said, no, paths are different, but because of its difference, we are enriched. You follow a different path and you share what it means to walk in your path. What is its specificity? What are its challenges? What are its graces? You are sharing with me, faith sharing. It enriches me. I share my path. So we are not, because we are in different paths, we are not isolated from one another. I said, no, globalized world, we are brought together. We are coming closer to one another. So what is important in your path? What is something beautiful about your path? What is something which touches your heart? You share with me.
Okay, sir, but can I apply it in my life?
Sorry?
Can I apply it then? If I like something from other religion, can I apply it in my own religion?
It's not the question of applying. See, then it will be a syncretism. No, sorry, in a sense, we are not, I said, no, it's not melting pot. I take this, I take from here, I take from here, put them together, and it's not a melting pot. I'm not, appropriating something, and no, not like that. What I'm saying is how your faith life and your commitment is a challenge for me to become a better person. So you take from me, not a particular way of and then integrating in your faith. No, I'm not saying that. That is something like not taking one aspect of Christianity, put it. No, that will be it's a mess. I'm not talking about. Very clear. I'm saying that your life and your commitment, when you share with me, it might it might invigorate me in my faith life. Your life challenge. That's why I said no taqwa, God consciousness, and zikr, remembrance of God, that you practice, that you live. That's a challenge for me. That's mutual interaction. That's a mutual learning. We are not living isolated. Yeah.
Sir, as for my learning, as for my knowledge, please correct me if I'm wrong. The very first human being in this world was Adam and Eve. So they came with a single religion and a single path. Likewise, there were prophets like Jesus, peace be upon him, Moses, Yahya, Yunus, and many others which are mentioned in the Torah, in the Bible, and as well as in the Quran. So likewise, in a chapter in the Quran, it's stating that Jesus, peace be upon him, says that I have came not to destroy the way of the prophecy, but to fulfill it. Means like, it simply means like there is only one path, and to live, please correct me, sir, and to live normal and with peace. So there must be a thing. I'm not stating that this religion is correct, this religion is not. I'm just stating that there must be a single path for all of these things, as per my knowledge.
See, once again, this if a stand like this, there is only one path, then what about other paths? Then automatically the consequence is this is the better path, others are secondary, and it is strayed away from my path. That is not going to be helpful, because today the world is pluralistic world. Pluralism is the reality of the world. If I say my path is the right path, and what about other paths, I have to answer. Then my answer would be other paths they strayed away from my path. They have to return to my path. Then it will become religious supremacy, isn't it? So yes, at the same time, I have not completed a very important one. At the same time, for you, you have a faith conviction. You must hold on to that faith conviction. You must hold on to the faith conviction as the revelation. See, faith and revelation. Revelation is what God reveals. Faith is our response to it. So your faith conviction is the Holy Quran. God has revealed God's will for the world. That is your faith conviction. You must hold on to it. It's not that you must compromise it for dialogue. No, you must hold on to it. At the same time, you must respect the other faith convictions. That is very importance of dialogue. Do you get my point? See, for me, Christ is the way. Christ is the path. God says, God is love. God revealed God's love in Christ, and through Holy Spirit, God is present today, here and now, and we respond to His love through Christ. This is our Christian faith. This is important for me. At the same time, I have learned to respect your faith over the years. Then dialogue becomes meaningful. If I lose my faith, if I say what is important for Christian faith, like Trinity, redemption, resurrection of Christ, if I compromise on all those things, then dialogue won't be fruitful. I must hold this the truth as I have responded in my faith. At the same time, learn to respect your faith tradition, or the way you have understood the faith. I respect that. Similarly, I respect the faith of a person who doesn't have any faith tradition, but his values in human dignity, human right questions, I respect. So that's where we keep this like two poles always in creative tension. In theology, they talk about there are two poles: your faith conviction and the diverse faith convictions. So always in creative tension. When we keep that way, creative tension, then there is mutual learning, mutual understanding, and we will begin to work together for common good. Thank you. Thank you for that question.
So to sum up, sir, as I got it, it's like in dialogue, I have to first believe like God has revealed every religion for a specific people. I burned in a Muslim family, so that's why I'm a Muslim. So I must follow Muslim. Is this the way?
Yeah, that is why you have you articulate. See, we must learn. I have learned to understand and respect every articulation. Okay, you believe that some people God is guiding in a particular path. Yes, that's fine. That's good way of articulating it. Yes, fundamentally, we must not compromise our faith. We must not disrespect the faith of the other. Maulana Wahiduddin Khan Sahab, he has gone to the Lord. He used to say that you follow your religion, respect the religion of the other. So what he is saying, you remain committed to your faith, but respect, esteem the faith of the other. And that is the teaching of the church also in the Vatican II. Yeah.
Thanks.
Good. For something which, like I always put the ABCD of dialogue. It's also sort of my own way of expressing it. ABCD of dialogue. What is A? A, acknowledge. Acknowledge the need for the other. I need others to be myself. I become a human person as a socially human person. If nobody exists in the world, I don't know, I can't understand myself a human person. We need each other. We need one another to live a fulfilled human life. So acknowledge the other, the presence of the other, the need of the other, and the need to cooperate with the other, the need to collaborate with the other. So it's not, once again, collaboration and cooperation is not simply an option, but it's an obligation. It's an imperative today's world. So acknowledge, first important word. Secondly, be with the others. By being with the others, exposing ourselves to the faith traditions, cultural expressions of the others, we dispel our prejudices, come to recognize one another, the beauty. Here, being with the other, we also must be critical of the values that dehumanize persons. One example, when in a relationship with a Christian brother or Christian sister, if you find something which dehumanizes the person, you must be critical of. That's why dialogue is not pally-pally relations. Oh, you're good, I'm good. It's not patting one. At times, we need to be critical of. Whatever dehumanize, if you find a certain element of certain element that in my culture which dehumanizes the person, the other, then I must be gently critical of that. That's also important. We need to appreciate and affirm all that is good. We also gently be critical of all that dehumanize in one's culture. That's important. So be with others. C, collaborate. Once again, the same. C, collaborate for common good. Work together for common good. And D, deepen the relationship with the other. So because relationship is at the heart of dialogue. And friends, the Catholic Church, in a way, it puts the dialogue in 4 different forms. One is dialogue of life. That means we are living together, we're celebrating our feast together, understanding one another, caring for one another, especially one who is sick, taking care of the other. So this is sort of dialogue of life. A dialogue of action, where Christians and Muslims, Hindus or Buddhists, Sikhs, we work together for the common good, for the community, for all in a particular area, a particular state, or wherever we live together. We make an ambience of coexistence something beautiful. For that, we need to work together. We need to put our energies together. We bring our values with one another. D is deepen our relationship. Deepen our relationship. Because the relationship is at the heart of dialogue. D, deepen. And the third form of dialogue is dialogue of deepening. Yes, deepening our relationship. The third form of dialogue is a dialogue of spirituality, where people who those who are deepening their understanding of spiritual life, like mystics, like monks in the monastery, and Sufi mystics, they engage with one another, exchange their ideas and experiences, and they also sometimes pray together as Christians and Muslims. This is dialogue of spiritual life. And finally, dialogue of theological dialogue, where theologians from different religious traditions, they speak, they studying the text together, reflecting upon a particular text, exchanging notes. It's the higher sort of form of dialogue. So dialogue is sort of, it has a long range and different possibilities. And finally, the relationship, knowledge, and experience are important for engaging, learning, or entering into this enterprise called dialogue. So, sisters and friends, any question? If acknowledgement and consideration is an imperative. Sorry, I couldn't read it.
Rajan, you may unmute yourself, turn on your camera, introduce yourself, and ask your question.
Yes, sir. First of all, thank you that you guided us on this issue. Sir, my question, am I audible to you, sir?
Yes, yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, my question is that if consideration or acknowledgement is an imperative, or to say obligation in the religious world order or in religious dialogue, then what about the criticism? That there are certain issues at which religions has to be criticized. There was a dark age because of the religion in the history of humanity. What was the reason behind the dark age? We have to criticize that. There are certain faiths which have been used by some people either in a negative manner or misinterpretation to harm the humanity, the integrity of the humanity. What would you say on that? And what about the moral grandstanding which religion has taken in one way or another? The term moral grandstanding I'm using intentionally. During the COVID period, what was the role of religion? I do not think that religion helped in any way. There is a atheist, Sam Harris. He says that religion is basically a failed science in a manner that in the modern world, there is no use of religion at all. What we can do with religion? Can it help in medical sector? Can it help in any other sector at all? So like, what would you say on that there are certain points at which we have to criticize the religion? And if we criticize, then there are some fundamentalists who basically comes with violent response. This is the thing I want to say, sir.
Thank you, Rajan, for your question. See, I mentioned whatever whatever element in the culture, the expression. See, religion is embedded in the culture. The certain cultural elements that the dehumanized person is also interpreted as something religious. So we need to be very careful about where this dehumanizing element is coming from. So we need to interpret that. We need to recognize that. For example, in Christian faith, something connected to the gender inequality. If it comes, where does it come from? A gender inequality in Christianity, does it come from religious scripture? Or it comes from the tradition? I must know it. So simply, I cannot as a Christian myself, I cannot simply say that, oh, we have certain, inequity or the gender disparity in the Christian scripture. So if there are, that needs to be interpreted. The word of the word of God is inspired word of God. Bible is interpreted, and the interpretation is very important for a present context. The text, the person before the text, and the interaction, and the interpretation, surplus meaning, all those need to be considered and interpreted. And also we might find many of the cultural expressions also have taken the religious hue. That we need to be critical of. So basically, we must recognize, appreciate, affirm whatever dignifies human person, and whatever whatever elements that do not dignify human person needs to be critiqued. That's first point. Secondly, you talked about the religion. What religion say? Today there is a lot of good interaction between science and religion. Science and religion is a great, an important as a study, and science and religion are not against each other. In the olden times, I think Michael Faraday, he is a scientist. When I open my lab, I close my chapel, the prayer place. Now, those days, it was a two watertight compartments, science and religion. Today, there is a greater interaction between science and religion. Science tries to answer the mysteries of the universe, the created reality. And religion is, the response to the contingencies or the existential questions of human person. What is human person? What is his or her dignity? Where do we come from? Where do we grow? Where do we go? So in these areas, both science and religion interact with one another. So science cannot answer the questions with regard to mystery. So religion cannot answer questions connected with the science. They interact with one another. So today, science and religion are not opposed to each other. A lot of literature is available on good interaction, positive interaction with science and religion. How religion and science interact with one another for human development. That's a recognized fact, and a lot of literature available. A lot of scientists and religious scholars work on that. Secondly, it's a parochial small answer. I'm sure, I know religious people do respond in a big way, even risking their health during the COVID time, reaching out reaching out food, reaching out essentials, the dry ration, so much they have done, religious people. So we cannot simply say the religious people do not do anything. They did indeed. Thank you for the question, but I'm grateful to your question. Yes, Aroki Jaj.
Father, in my understanding, most of the religions influence the culture and culture influence the religion. Therefore, for me, even before going for an interreligious dialogue, is it not necessary to have a cultural dialogue that may help us to better understand religions or interreligious dialogue? For example, Islam with Arabic culture, or Christianity with European culture, Hinduism with Indian culture. So they are so much interlinked together. So I don't know, is it not necessary to really have a better understanding of culture to understand better the religions, to have interreligious dialogue?
Thank you, Aroki Jaj. First point is, we cannot identify Islam with Arabic culture. We cannot identify Christianity with European culture. Why I do say this? There's a book recently, What is Islam? The Meaning of Being Islamic, by Shabab Ahmad, Pakistan-based, Pakistan-born American scholar. Unfortunately, he died at a very young age, at the age of 48. He wrote a big volume, What is Islam? The Meaning of Islamic. The key thesis of the book is, from 1350 to 1850, Islam spread across the world, taking root in every culture. So it's not that Islam has one culture, that same culture is planted. No, Islam, the message, has taken root in different culture. Also, taking in the cultural elements of, he will call us a Balkan to Bengal complex. He uses the phrase Balkan to Bengal complex. So it has taken root. So but Tamil Muslim culture is certainly different from Kashmiri Muslim culture. They are more attuned to the Kashmiri culture than something. There is no abstract Muslim culture. Tamil Muslim culture, Bengali Muslim culture, Kashmiri Muslim culture. So cultures are different. Language and culture are very important. Secondly, I would say that religion is embedded in culture. So we cannot distinguish, water and milk, then remove water from the milk. Similarly, religion and culture cannot be separated. It is embedded. Cultural expressions and religious, they are very religion is embedded in the culture. So cultural dialogue is important. We cannot simply have something separate cultural dialogue. We need to be sensitive to the culture. You are engaging with the Bengali Muslims, so you need to learn the language, Bengali language, and they have a very Bengali Islam is very much steeped in Sufi culture. So entering into that, so that's important. For Tamil culture, so it is very much Dravidian in its nature. So how the Maraikayars came and others, how they integrated with Tamil culture. So it has another ball game. So we cannot have something abstract. This is Muslim culture. Similarly, Christian culture, there is something similar. There are certain things may be common. The way they celebrate Mass in Europe or America and India, the basic form may be same, but there are a lot of cultural elements have taken the religious, the religious elements or cultural elements have taken religious hue. So we need to enter into specificities are important for dialogue. We cannot have a sort of I know Islam. I have studied 2 books in Islam, so I can engage with any Muslim, Bengali Muslim or Kashmiri Muslim or Muslims living in Europe. I can engage with them. No. You need to enter deeply. So it's a demanding, but very rewarding, very, very rewarding. Yes, thank you. And Furqan?
Yes, I was actually gonna ask about the interreligious dialogue. Interreligious dialogue, like what is the best way of having this sustainable interreligious dialogue? Because we already talked about the, like why we should have a dialogue and are we accepting other religion when we are having dialogue? But actually, when we look at our prophets, Jesus and Muhammad, they were already having a dialogue with others. Jesus were having a dialogue with the Jewish people, and Muhammad was having a dialogue with the Jewish and the Christian people in the beginning of their prophecy. But we generally actually skip that part, and we are just focusing on the one part that this is Muslim, this is Jewish, this is Christian. And is it like I'm just asking, is it the best way to just live what you believe? To have an interfaith, interreligious dialogue, because we are not convincing each other. We are just telling each other what we believe. If I am correct, we believe in that way. You believe in that way, and the Christians are like this, Muslims are like this, and we are also finding gaps and also the better things, maybe better cultural or religious faith and sides that maybe we actually missed in our belief. But what is the best way? I see personally that like Muhammad did, what Jesus did. We just need to believe how we believe, and then people can actually understand what is the reality in what you believe. What do you think about this? And do you see any other insights about this issue?
Thank you, Furqan. It's very important. See, it's not so simply saying no. This is a starting point. No, faith sharing is a starting point. So we cannot remain all the time. No, simply not say this is what I believe and this is what you believe. So listen and go back. That's maybe a starting point. To go and listen to others is a starting point. But it initiates a process to which I must become very sincerely attuned to. What you are sharing demands me. I must work on it. So dialogue is not simply every time I come and you talk about your faith, I talk about your faith, we go away. That may be an initial, very primary, just bringing together. So I said, no, the methodology when Sabah asked, we go and listen to them and write down what are the challenges, what are the questions, what does he say, what made me so happy, what made me sad. So more interior work is necessary. So dialogue is, it's a starting point. Then when we, understand more and more, see there is a interesting story in the life of Christian Discharge, a monk who was killed. He and a Muslim friend of him used to walk together, making conversation, talking about politics and talking, sharing about their faith. He's a monk, a Christian monk. This Muslim is a policeman. And once when they were going for a walk, some rebels come and they wanted to kill Christian Discharge. But Muhammad, his name is Muhammad, that policeman. He covered him and said, no, he argued with them passionately to let him go. And then the rebels disappeared. But after a few days, because Muhammad tried to help a Christian, he was gunned down. He gave his life for a Christian friend. So this was the beginning of Christian Discharge's own spiritual journey entering into Islam. As a monk, he went to Pisa in Rome to study in the Pontifical Institute for Arabic and Islamic Culture, returned to Algeria, to the Atlas Mountains, stayed in the monastery, worked with Muslims. And when there was a lot of rebels were coming and now the government told them to move away, to go back. But they said, no, we will stay with our Muslim brothers and sisters, even if we have to die. So all of them were killed maybe by government or rebels, we don't know. But his whole journey starts there. A Muslim friend of mine defended me and died for me. So as a Christian, I must dedicate my life to the Muslim land in Algeria. So this is dialogue. So his life and death, his blood, transformed him, made him more sensitive to Muslim friends, brothers and sisters. So they lived in the village very harmoniously with not taking part in all the celebrations of Muslim celebrations, marriage and khatna, the circumcision ceremony, all those ceremonies they were taking part. All the monks were invited to Muslim families. They sat together, they prayed, and when the Muslim Imam is praying, they were also respectfully remained in their praying. So this is dialogue. Ultimately, they gave their life. So dialogue, listening, it's an initial thing. It's like a sort of before a big meal, an appetizer. But the real meal is really dedicating one's life for the other. So that's why dialogue is said very demanding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Furqan.
So with this last
brothers, okay, sorry. Thank you, Alia.
Yeah, we have come to the end of the session. Father Victor, thank you so much for sharing your practical as well as theoretical knowledge with us, which I believe you've been collecting over the past 30 years. So you condensed it all for us in 2 hours. Thank you so much for that as well. And we will be sharing all the resources that you share with us, with our students, because there's so much to learn from all of that. Thank you, everybody, all the participants, all the students for joining us today for a very fruitful session. Thank you, Father.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless. Take care. Bye. Thank you,
Thank
Alia.
you,
Thank you, Faisal. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, Father. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.